Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Quote, "We're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye."
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Insane 72 hours, obviously no shortage of things to talk about. But before we get into that, I want to thank our sponsor, Cardio Miracle. So if you're ready for a game changer, check out the secret weapon from our sponsor and good friends at Cardio Miracle. It's sourced with 55 of the finest food, plant, herbal ingredients, and best natural flavors in the world. Cardio Miracle works wonders and tastes great. It's got a 60-day money-back guarantee. You can go to cardiomiracle.com/Sarah. That is code Sarah. And you'll get some savings there. That is cardiomiracle.com/Sarah. You know, days like today, you're just like, where do I even think about beginning, right? How in the hell did what happened on Saturday happen? Also, big news today. It's official. Trump-Vance 2024, as announced by Trump earlier today at the RNC. And so, yes, he had to announce it as well on Truth Social. There was a lot of speculation that it was J.D. Vance, and then there was a motorcade that was spotted whisking J.D. Vance away to the RNC, and that was when the speculation really amped up. And then, of course, we have the official announcement right here. So we'll get into that, obviously. But let's talk about the shots heard around the world. No pun intended, which, I think shouldn't have come as a surprise, right? Like for nearly 8 years now, the left and the mainstream media have engaged in all of these performative theatrics about how terrible Donald Trump was. He's literally Hitler. That was what they constantly said. All sorts of made up, charged rhetoric. And finally, shouldn't have come as a shock to anyone, right? Finally, someone acted upon that rhetoric and attempted to assassinate the former president of the United States, and quite possibly, more likely than ever now, by the way, the future president of the United States come January. Now, by the grace of God, he survived. No thanks to his security, by the way. He turns a different direction, and we're having a much different show today. Okay? He glances at a different part of the crowd, and this is a much different show. Our nation would be forever changed. In some ways, maybe we are already. So let's talk about how this even came to be, okay? The sniper was on top of a building 130 yards from Trump, on a rooftop in broad daylight. How does that happen? Is that total incompetency or something more sinister? And keep in mind, by the way, we actually don't know because Secret Service employs DEI hires. That's a thing, a goal of the Secret Service director, Kimberly Cheadle, to hire more women. So we actually really, it's hard to know. Is this just sheer incompetency because the entire federal government has decided that DEI was a good way to hire people? Or is this something more sinister? You have to really pay attention to figure that out. All right. So there was a moment that Donald Trump was hit, and the Secret Service, you could hear the audio of the Secret Service discussion that was taking place. I'm not sure if we actually have that. I know that I had asked for it earlier. So let's go ahead. Yeah, let's go ahead and play the moment that, of course, everyone is talking about. Pay close attention to the Secret Service conversation once they actually get in front of and on top of Donald Trump. Watch.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
All right, listen. They're trying to formulate their plan. So if you listen very closely, you can hear one of it's just the most iconic moment I can think of in modern American history. Go ahead, that's enough. So you can hear at a certain point the female Secret Service saying, you know, what are we doing? Where are we going? What are we doing? Like, you guys don't have a plan? Several women on the security detail, by the way, leaving Donald Trump majorly exposed, as you saw right there. I would just say, no offense to women, if you're protecting a man who is like 6'4" or 6'5" or however the hell tall he is, you probably should be at least that tall. Otherwise, you're just leaving him majorly exposed. There's a direct line of sight right to his head. So maybe DEI isn't such a great idea in the Secret Service. Okay? But then you have, on top of just abysmal failure after failure there, you have a witness who actually told BBC News that the rally goers were they were like, hey, law enforcement, there's a guy up there on the roof. Watch.
So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, But we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, and we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on.
Doesn't quite inspire
like, hey,
confidence.
Right here on the roof, we can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him.
Things even average citizens
2-3
understand.
minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots rang out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
That's
and
enough.
he was
That's
up there
enough.
for a couple of minutes.
What the hell happened, guys? How does this happen? How in the world does this happen? Especially knowing that, we'll get into this later, especially knowing that there were counter snipers who are on video waiting at least half a minute. By some people's counts, close to 2 minutes. They're just waiting for what? Great question. So, a lot of questions that we still need answers to, including details about the shooter. But here's what we know about him so far. He is 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. No criminal record, we're told. Law enforcement said they used DNA to identify him. How? I don't know. Was he in a database? I don't know. They said he doesn't have a criminal record. So how are you going to use DNA and figure out who the person is if you don't have a record of who the person is? Again, this isn't a conspiracy theory. I'm legitimately asking the question. How did they use what DNA did they use, and how did they find a match? I don't know. I think that we deserve to have that question answered because it does seem a little bit strange. Mainstream media keeps referring to, by the way, his voter registration, because they're like, oh, we got it. Now we can blame it on the Republicans. His official voter registration is Republican. But, I would say, I think we can confidently rule out that a Republican would be trying to kill the Republican candidate for president. Like, that seems a little strange, don't you think? Also, B, reports indicate that he donated to the Progressive Turnout Project through Act Blue on what just so happened to be Joe Biden's inauguration day. By the way, that particular project, well, first of all, Act Blue is like the liberals' donation website. So that in of itself, like, duh, it's a liberal. But also that particular project, the Progressive Turnout Project, it's trying to, like, its entire goal is just to rally Democrats to go out and vote. I don't know. I'm just saying, doesn't sound very Republican to me. Also add to that now you have the Democrats who have been waging these campaigns for Democrats to vote in Republican primaries. So who knows? Okay. Reports are also that he had a limited social media presence. And in fact, FBI Special Agent in charge, Kevin Rojic, said that authorities have not yet identified an ideology. It's what we don't know so far. And that representatives from the messaging app Discord said he did have a Discord account. It was rarely utilized. And they told Fox News that they removed his account in accordance, of course, with Discord's off-platform behavior policy. Well, isn't that convenient? Isn't it always convenient that these people have all of their social media presences just completely wiped from the face of the planet? You can't see it. You just have to rely on what they tell you. Isn't that convenient? We also know he lived with his parents, who are both professional counselors. Yes, I looked that one up myself. Both licensed professional counselors. Police said that he had bombs in his car that was found outside the venue and bombs at his home. They said the gun was his father's. By the way, they said he acted alone. Well, look, that was before they could actually get into his phone. They had already determined that he acted alone. But don't worry. Trust us, bro. It's the FBI investigating, remember? Right? What could possibly... it's the FBI. What could possibly go wrong? Don't you know them as truth tellers in this day and age? Nope. Acted alone. We already know. Trust us, bro. No conflict of interest there. Okay? Oh, and by the way, he just happened to be in a BlackRock commercial when he was a student at Bethel Park High just a couple years ago. Here is that.
My name is Brian DeLallo. I teach AP and honors economics in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Financial well-being to me is knowing that I can be free to do the things that I love to do. I hope when I retire someday, they say that guy made this place a special place to come to school and gave as much as he could to help the community.
Interesting. Now, if I were a conspiracy theorist, I might have some thoughts there. Saying. By the way, for reference, BlackRock owns shares in many companies critical of Donald Trump: CNN, Comcast, MSNBC, New York Times, News Corp, CBS, Disney, and they have since pulled the ad after the shooting. So let's add all of these things up, okay? This is what we're told. This is the narrative. And you are just supposed to believe it without question. A 20-year-old acting completely alone was able to, in plain clothes, okay, get up on a roof 130 yards from a presidential candidate and former president with a rifle, just walking around with a rifle, I guess. I don't know. Because, by the way, he's able to get up there because the building was somehow not in the perimeter for Secret Service surveillance. Odd. And apparently there was no aerial surveillance at the time, I guess. No drones to spot him, nothing. And he was able to perch up on that roof in broad daylight for an extended amount of time, zero in on Trump, despite rally goers warning police, get off the shot, and only then, even though counter snipers were like poised to take him out, only then did they actually fire off any shots to neutralize the threat. Seems really odd to me. Okay. Just saying. I have a lot of questions now, and we haven't even come close to answering them in a way that actually makes sense. And by the way, I'm not the only one, okay? Next, I want to bring on a former Green Beret Special Forces sniper who says, yeah, I agree, something freaking stinks, when we return. I want to welcome to the show Matthew Murphy. He is a former Green Beret Special Forces sniper who served in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and also the president of US operations at the Sentinel Foundation. Thank you so much for joining me. Can I call you Matt?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Matt, so you have gone super viral all over the place on social media today. And I want to talk about what you think is going on. But I want to ask you first about the counter sniper seemingly hesitating to take a shot. Okay, you've got the counter sniper. You can see them very clearly. Well, I would say very clearly. I'll let you weigh in. Seemingly noticing someone and waiting and not engaging until, of course, the shooter had already taken his shot. So obviously, you have people like Dan Bongino, who is former Secret Service, and he had said, listen, obviously sniper protocol is to neutralize the threat. You don't wait for them to take a shot off. Like that's not what you do. Your whole intention is to eliminate the threat before the threat poses that threat to you. But according to former Secret Service agent Anthony Cangelosi, he said Secret Service snipers are trained to make rapid decisions. He said it's possible if they notice that he was on the roof, Crooks was on the roof, but couldn't tell whether he had a rifle, agents might have waited to fire on him. If a sniper can't tell whether he has a gun, he or she is not going to take the shot. So what say you about that moment where we seem to see the counter snipers not taking the shot?
So I have spent a ton of time analyzing videos, talking to buddies in all different levels of federal agencies and military. Nothing about this makes sense. And if you have to take a few steps back to just to how he even got on that rooftop, 120, 150, depending on who you listen to, yards away from President Trump. I mean, that is the closest possible spot you could get. Right. So the fact that there's videos of him crawling up a ladder, crawling up the roof, and then getting into a position, and this time, it looks like minutes, where he is getting in this position, and that people are yelling, they're pointing, they're telling the police, the cops aren't doing anything. And, first of all, I have to say this. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, and I can't throw anyone under the bus in service. I don't know this sniper personally. I have a very close friend that's close with him, and we've been in some very heated conversations for the past 2 days, of course. And there's not a doubt in my mind that the sniper on the roof saw the shooter, saw him crawling across the roof. It would be impossible, even with the naked eye at that distance on a white roof, to not see the shooter. So why he didn't take that shot, only he's going to know. But I know for me, I can only say what I would have done in that situation. You can armchair quarterback these things all day. I would have not hesitated, given the situation, to pull that trigger, because as a sniper, you should know what everything on every roof and every vantage point in front of you is, what should be there and what shouldn't be there. And when someone has an opportunity to assassinate a former president and hopefully our future president, you can't sit and wait. So there's rumors going around that he was told to stand down, and I know the truth to that, because with social media being there's a lot of content that's nonsense, right? That's out there right now. People create fake content, fake narratives all the time from all the chats. But one thing that's going viral right now that I haven't been able to verify is this 4chan thread where this guy claims to be the sniper and anonymous, and he talks in detail about what's going on. And there's a lot of people sharing a lot of conspiracy. No one's confirmed or denied that. But in that thread, the guy says, I was told to stand down. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that is the only reason I can think of, any of my friends can think of, that he would not have pulled that trigger and shot the shooter.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to be that there are so many different coincidences that it rises past the level of incompetency. And in my opinion, we need to be looking at something, perhaps something more sinister took place. Look, it wouldn't be the first time, I'm just saying, Kennedy, it wouldn't be the first time that the federal government was working to take out a president or a former president or a presidential candidate, however you want to look at it. So I personally do think that there's something more sinister at play. And I saw that you had posted a video on your Instagram, basically alluding to the same the same thought, right? And you posted a woman. This was a video that was highlighting a woman that was in the audience behind Donald Trump. Let's take a look at that.
Take a look at what happened.
So she's standing there. She seems to not be rattled at all. And she immediately gets out her phone with what appears to be a smile on her face. I mean, it is grainy. I'll give him that. But a very bizarre reaction. What's your take?
So there's multiple factors in this video, and then of other pieces that play into my thought process behind this. So first of all, when you look at the shooter on the roof, the amount of time he had to crawl, the amount of time he had to get set up, well, it makes no sense to me, especially if Donald Trump is indeed your target, why the first few rounds did not fly at Donald Trump. They went into the audience and they hit spectators, right? So if this kid is not a trained shooter, and there's things on the internet right now about him being kicked off the high school rifle team, maybe he practiced after high school, he's only 20, not being a trained shooter, having multiple shots go into the crowd, killing someone in the crowd, and then here's the other part, then barely grazing a shot right past the president's ear. That just seems very suspect to me. And then no one else behind the president or to the side of the president getting hit by his rounds. Now, here's something that, and I've verified this with multiple other snipers and some ballistic people too, analyzing the video. Here's what doesn't make sense. And we'll get to this lady in a second. When you look at the trajectory of the bullet that flies behind Trump's head, there's multiple freeze frames of the bullet going behind Trump's head. That bullet seems to be very flat going behind his head. In the front before, when it shows it about to hit his ear, he turns his head, and as that bullet goes past, bullet's flying at a very, very flat trajectory. Not a trajectory where someone had an elevated rooftop position and would take a shot at the president. Now, this is what doesn't make sense to me. The lady in the video, now I'm trying to be careful how I say this because be totally off, right?
Right.
Good. But there's just, again, coincidence after coincidence after coincidence in this one. There was a sign, and it didn't show it in the video that you played. There was a sign that was raised. It looks like the sign was raised by a child. And then I perceived the lady giving a salute. Now, so that angle doesn't show it. There's another angle from another camera, another news station that shows she looks up. She's looking down at the bullets flying. She sits down and then she gives a salute. Ducks, salutes behind the sign, and then that round that came in from the side comes in. Now, I have talked about this with multiple snipers, and this is not just me, going down a rabbit hole. Everyone that I've talked about this that I trust is seeing the same thing I'm seeing. Something else happened. And that bullet it looks like it came from somewhere else. It makes no sense that this kid, untrained, would get a few shots off into the crowd, be spooked by a cop that ran down a ladder after he saw him, and then take a very well-aimed place shot with a very flat trajectory at President Trump's head. It just doesn't make sense. And then you have a lot of people analyzing the entire space off to, as Trump will be looking at the crowd to the right of where President Trump is, it's open field, there's a water tower, there's tons of positions where you could take a second shooter could take another shot at the president, and they're wide open. They're not guarded. There's no one there. There's no one watching them. If you look at the snipers that are on counter sniper watch, by President Trump, they're only looking forward at the buildings. There is no one looking at the water tower. There is no one looking at all these other spaces. So I can't say for a fact, because obviously I'm not there. I'm not doing the ballistic studies, but there's a lot more coincidences to this that make it look like there are other things at play, other things involved. And there's just, again, too many coincidences from start to finish. It is like, it's like getting struck by lightning and winning the lottery the same day, that all these things could break down, and then there could be all these things happening to show all this evidence that something is not right here. And I don't believe this 20-year-old kid, given the pattern of fire, the time, the amount of rounds you can audibly hear, could shoot people in the crowd, miss everything else, and then take a great headshot at President Trump. It just doesn't make sense.
And I agree with you. So I just want to be clear here for the audience. You speaking as a, level 1 sniper?
So I was a level 1 trained sniper in US Army Special Forces. So that's the highest tier of sniper school that we have.
Okay. So I would consider you to be the expert on this. You speaking as a level 1 sniper are saying you believe that this was either an inside job, there was a second shooter, or a combination of both.
There's a combination of a lot of things here. It could potentially be an inside job. I just don't see, given my experience in military security, how we do things, especially when there's high value, personnel. I do not see any logical reason, any reason that a 20-year-old boy with a gun should be able to walk into a rally, casually climb up a ladder, casually climb across a rooftop, get into a good shooting position, and open fire on a crowd 120 to 150 meters away from the former president of the United States. I don't care what JV team was there. I know there's Dan Moingo. I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher his name. A lot of respect for that guy. I listened to him this morning. Trump did tell him that they were short-staffed on Secret Services. There were a lot of other agency personnel there. People in the crowd saw this. Right. Exactly. People with iPhones were pointing like, this isn't right. I don't care if you're a Sunday quarterback, armchair quarterback that, yells at MMA fighters they should do better.
Right.
Everyone saw this.
Yeah.
There's no coincidences on this. Something had to happen, a breakdown in security, and it could be intentional. Now, I don't want to be a conspiracy at all, but we have a long history of actions here in the United States and historical things that we can go look at that show, hey, there's not always just one shooter. There's usually multiple shooters when things like this happen. Was it a government conspiracy, a corporate conspiracy, somebody with money conspiracy? I don't know who. I'm not going to say who did it, and because I don't know. But there's a lot more here. There's a lot more going on, and sadly, also knowing our government and these investigations, I feel like we will probably never get the truth or get all the answers.
Unfortunately, I agree with you. I wish I didn't, but I do. Matt Murphy, thank you so much. Of course, former Green Beret Special Forces sniper and president of U.S. operations at Sentinel Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
All right. We will be right back. Well, other major news today, Donald Trump's classified documents case has been dismissed. Now, prior to that, Trump's team had called Jack Smith's appointment in and of itself unconstitutional. And apparently, the judge agreed. Judge Aileen Cannon dismissed the case, citing unlawful appointment and funding of special counsel Jack Smith. I want to welcome to the program my favorite legal expert, Josh Hammer, of course, host of America on Trial. Thank you so much for joining me, Josh. Tell me, what is your, are you surprised to see this news? What's your take?
Sarah, I'm still waiting for my custom T-shirt to arrive in the mail that says Sara Gonzales Unfiltered in-house counsel.
I know, I need to. It's coming, Josh. It's coming.
Okay, I look forward to it. So look, this is actually an issue that many of us have been talking about for a while now, and it's really incredible vindication to actually see it play out in the very public arena. So let's take a step back a little bit here. Clarence Thomas devoted his entire concurring opinion in the Trump immunity case in Trump versus United States just a couple weeks ago to this very issue. He's shown a very, very bright spotlight calling into question the legality of Jack Smith, but you could kind of tell where Clarence Thomas was going with this. And let me just explain why this is a problem. So back in the day, Congress had a so-called independent counsel statute where there was an actual independent counsel who purported to operate outside of the actual hierarchy of the Department of Justice. Now, there was a somewhat obscure late 1980s case called Morrison versus Olson, where the late great Justice Antonin Scalia had a blistering solo dissent where he called into question the constitutionality of the independent counsel. That actually became, even though it was a solo dissent, that actually became mainstream unanimous opinion. So Congress let the old independent counsel statute expire. This is after Ken Starr's investigation of Bill Clinton in the 1990s. But Congress never actually explicitly authorized kind of a one-size-fits-all new special counsel statute. So on the contrary, what they've done is when you have a special counsel here or there, or when you have a Robert Mueller, or when you have a Robert Hur, they will sometimes, not always, but they will sometimes have a one-off statute saying we authorize the Attorney General to give a special counsel in this particular situation. The problem is that this is dubious at best unless you have a direct authorizing statute from Congress. So just real quick here, Constitutional Law 101. The Appointments Clause of Article 2 of the Constitution is how you fill the executive branch, how you fill the bureaucracy. And it distinguishes between principal officers and inferior officers. Principal officers in the executive branch, exactly what it sounds like. Those are cabinet officials. The way that you do that is through advice and consent. The president nominates and the Senate confirms. Now, the question here, one question is whether or not Jack Smith was actually purporting to have that level of authority. So when Judge Aileen Cannon held a series of hearings a few weeks ago on the legality of Jack Smith, she was actually probing him on this very question. She was saying, you know, Mr. Smith, do you have direct communication with Merrick Garland? She was trying to ascertain whether or not he was a special counsel or the old school, i.e. unconstitutional independent counsel. That's really what she was getting at there. And it turns out that Jack Smith, one, does not necessarily have a lot of communication with Merrick Garland, so he's acting as a quasi-independent counsel. And two, most important and most relevant, there's no statute. Congress has not spoken by law to give them this authority. So it's a wonderful, wonderful opinion by Judge Aileen Cannon. She deserves a ton of credit. The question that I have, Sarah, and I think I know the answer, but the question that I have is whether or not Judge Tanya Chutkan, the other district court judge there in Washington, D.C. on the January 6th case, is she going to take a lesson and follow suit here?
Right. Yeah, because I mean, she is the J6 judge, right? And she has not been favorable to prior J6ers. So it will be interesting to see whether or not she follows suit there. And then, and I also read, Josh, that I guess the Smith can file or can appeal her ruling and file a motion to remove her from presiding over the case. That seems to be like a very desperate measure, though. Do you anticipate that he is going to go those lengths?
She's definitely not going anywhere. I mean, the left has been up in arms, Sarah, about Judge Cannon getting randomly assigned to this case for basically a year now. So Jack Smith dropped his indictment in this case, the classified documents case in Florida in June 2023, and then Judge Aileen Cannon was randomly assigned to it fairly shortly thereafter. The left has been apoplectic that a Trump nominee was randomly assigned to this case. But it's random. That is the way it works in federal court. Again, I know because I clerked on the Fifth Circuit. When you have a 3-judge panel at the federal appeals level, it's literally a random number generator. I kid you not. That is actually how it worked on the Fifth Circuit when I clerked there, deep in the bowels of the federal appeals courtroom in New Orleans. There's an actual random number generator machine. And the left has been trying to get Judge Aileen Cannon to recuse on these grounds. But that is absolutely positively ludicrous. I mean, there is no reason whatsoever for her to do that. Now, Jack Smith will try to appeal the actual dismissal ruling to the 11th Circuit. I guess we'll see what happens there. He's going to have his shot at appeal there. The 11th Circuit happens to be a right of center court. Now, he could draw a very favorable panel. But, you know, the upshot here, Sarah, is that even if he pulls off the inside straight, even if he somehow gets a favorable ruling at the 11th Circuit, even if he somehow gets vindicated at SCOTUS, which he won't, but even if all that happens, there's zero chance this is happening before November at this point. 0, 0, 0, 0.
Okay, so before I let you go here, I just want to give a quick overview because I always feel like I need a flow chart to follow all of these stupid cases against Donald Trump. So this one is dismissed. Okay, the one from New York where he was convicted, the sentencing got moved from July 11th to September, and there was some weird, like the prosecution didn't even really fight Donald Trump's team on that, but does that one end up going away because of the SCOTUS ruling? And then on top of that, the one down in Georgia with Fani Willis. So I guess those two are the other ones. You mentioned the one with Judge Tanya Chutkan over J6, and that's obviously we'll see on that one. But what about the Fani Willis one?
The Fani Willis one, I mean, is on hospice care at this point.
It seems like it.
I mean, it's basically on its deathbed. I mean, what the current status of that particular case? I mean, it's on the back burner. It's on ice because the Georgia Court of Appeals granted Trump's appeal to have the Fani Willis dismissal decision, this mixed bag ruling that Scott McAfee, the trial court judge, gave us in March. The appellate court agreed to hear in October an evidentiary hearing as to whether or not the trial court erred in not just dismissing Fani Willis. If you recall at the time, they basically said it's either Fani or the special counsel, Nathan Wade, one of you has to go. So the Georgia Court of Appeals granted that appeal, and they said that the trial court is actually forbidden from doing anything in this case until they hold that appeal. But even more relevant to the point, yeah, there are drastic ramifications of the Trump immunity case in Georgia because the underlying conduct there is probably in the outer periphery of official presidential conduct. You might think whatever you think of President Trump's phone call to Brad Raffensperger on January 3rd, 2021, but it was probably official conduct because the president of the United States is the chief executive of the executive branch. And if he has reason to believe that the laws are not being properly enforced there, then that is official business. So the intellectually honest thing would be for that case to go away. Ditto in New York City. I don't think Juan Merchan's going to act in intellectually honest fashion at this sentencing. I could be wrong, obviously. But if he actually were to act in an honest way, I do think that he would say that at least two of the witnesses' testimonies, that of Hope Hicks and Madeleine Westerhout, involved official White House communication. Thereby, that entire trial was tainted. And at a bare minimum, you would need a mistrial. Again, I don't want to get the viewers' hopes up. I'm not predicting that Juan Merchan's going to do the right thing. I'm merely saying that would be the intellectually honest thing for him to do at this point.
Yeah. Josh, I appreciate you so much. And by the way, it is nice to have you come on. And I mean, I do like to gloat a little bit that all of this lawfare waged against Donald Trump, and it just does not seem to be happening the way that they anticipated that it would happen. And I love that for them. So I appreciate you, Josh. Come back soon.
Anytime.
All right. We will be right back. I want to welcome to the show, we're not done yet, Matthew Marsden, Blaze TV contributor and actor and producer extraordinaire, along with Jaco Booyens, Blaze TV contributor, and of course the founder of Jaco Booyens Ministries. If only we had anything to talk about today, guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
If only there was anything going on, like Donald Trump nearly being assassinated and also picking VP and also his classified documents case being dismissed. But I want to get your thoughts on actually all of it. But I want to talk about the mainstream media, who you could make the argument is completely complicit in what happened over the weekend. And I want to play, let me play for you. We don't have this plan. So let me play for you a CBS anchor, Margaret Brennan, who right after Donald Trump is shot is like, I mean, I noticed that he didn't say anything to lower the temperature.
God bless America, and we saw him raise his hand in the air defiantly, blood on his face as he left the stage.
He is recovering from these injuries now. This was a traumatic event, no doubt, for him. But I did notice there was no call for lowering the temperature, condemning all political violence, and really trying to signal to his supporters as well, not to retaliate or to have any kind of escalation here. I just am looking at these statements.
Isn't that fascinating that he's literally bleeding from his ear, almost getting killed, and you notice he didn't tell people to lower the temperature.
Well, also, did you see the riots? I mean, it was shocking. I was shocked and disgusted at the Republicans rioting all the way through the streets, burning things down.
Oh, whoops.
Oh, that's it. They didn't.
That's right. We don't need for him to tell us to behave civil because we behave civilly. They're the ones who burn streets down and drop bricks off in the corner and get Soros to fund dysfunction and disruption. It actually is case in point. Although he did not say be peaceful, we just are.
It's not what we do. It's just not what we do. And this look, what they're trying to do. This was a monumental time in American history, right? It was.
Yeah.
And they are trying to normalize it like, oh, yeah, of course he nearly got shot, but, what he didn't do. Are you out of your mind? Like, can you take a second? Number one, some poor guy died. Right? Some poor guy died.
Who they don't talk about.
They're not talking about
ever.
him at all.
A man who covered his family with his own body, something Secret Service couldn't do, by the way, to cover the president. Don't get me started on that nonsense.
It is. They are so disgusting and despicable. Yeah. And they're normalizing. The first thing they said, which, by the way, it shows that the left, we know they don't know anything about guns anyway, but they're like, it was a BB gun. It was a BB gun. And it was fake blood. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Clearly you haven't used fake blood, and I have. Clearly you've never shot a gun, which I have. I know you've done both. It wasn't that. Why are you trying to normalize it and explain it away? Like, this is a very, very serious moment. You guys aren't the ones that are saying this is despicable. They're like, yeah, well, it's really bad, but...
It was so disgusting. I was standing, just as it happened, right as it happened, I'm standing in a car wash, right? And it just happens, and my phone blows up, and it's right there. And the first ticker on the bottom of the screen, and this car wash didn't have Fox News on, right? The first ticker on the bottom of the screen is incident. A woman breaking her ankle is an incident. Okay? A child going is an incident, maybe falling or something. A president taking a bullet is not an incident. It's an attempted assassination. It took them a 6-hour news cycle to even get to the point where they would say, hey, someone took a shot at a former president of the United States. Mind you, we've had 4 presidents shot and killed in this country. 4. 7 presidents and 1 former had been shot. That doesn't count MLK and all the others, right? And so for people to come on, even on this network, to say, well, this is not the American way. No, it has been. It has been. Let's just be real, right? So it's sick. It's disgusting for them to not be able to, for them to say it's peaceful protest, but buildings are on fire. But this time a president takes a bullet, not shot at. He wasn't shot at. He was hit. Blood was drawn. He took a bullet. Even yesterday still, President Trump shot at. He wasn't shot at. The guy was shot.
Yeah.
They were noises.
Right, loud noises.
Loud noises. You're like,
firecrackers.
Yes. Donald Trump rushed off stage after loud noises.
And they knew at that point that they'd shot.
He's dripping with blood. Of course they knew.
There's people dead in the grandstand.
Right.
People died. People got shot. Can I just say one thing real quick?
Sure.
It's not prompted by you. Can we please, for the love of life, and women, I fight for women, you know this. I fight for women, but this is not a sexist comment. I'm just going to be real, okay?
Please, I agree with you.
You cannot have a 6'3" man and your Secret Service is 5'5".
No.
It should be a prerequisite, and anybody that is on his details should be 6'1" and above, able to actually draw a perimeter around him. Plus, another thing, when you're in the military, like I was, like you were, you got to be able to carry the injured.
Right.
Can they lift him?
Right.
One person. Can one person lift him up and carry him out? Because if not, you don't qualify boot camp, baby.
That's what, okay, so I did a live stream over the weekend, and that's what I said, and I had a female cop very upset at me, and I'm like, sorry that hurts your feelings. I don't know what you want me to say. You're leaving the president vulnerable to some sort of a threat because you're too small, you're too frail, you're not strong enough. Don't blame me, blame science, I guess.
Sarah, when a president is bleeding and I see a ponytail waving,
I know.
Fitness.
And the female,
can holster her gun.
Trying to, where's that holster? No, thank you. I'm just saying no, thank you. All right, before we have to go, I do want to get y'all's thoughts on J.D. Vance is, of course, the pick by Donald Trump for VP. It is Trump Vance 2024 or bust. What are your thoughts on his pick, Jaco?
I'm going to be controversial. We can do better. We can do better as a country.
Why? Why do you say that? I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm just asking you to expand.
I want a man that has his own voice, iron sharpens iron. I don't want a yes man. I want a guy that has his own voice, that when Trump pulls in away can say, President, have you thought about this? Or when people around Trump feeds him false information, that he has the gusto to step up and say, get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy's not with you. Remember, he pulled Mike Pence in because Mike was a yes man. And if you want a yes man with you when you're in war, you're going to have a yes man leave you. Vance will have to earn my respect. I'm telling you, he hasn't yet. He'll have to earn it because Trump's going to need somebody by his side that will not run. And they all ran, whether it was Sessions or Barr or Pence, they all ran. He needs,
Agree?
I mean, look, I personally like JD Vance. I think he's solid. I understand your reluctance. I think that most of us really would have really loved to seen DeSantis do it, and I think that's in a perfect world. I really hoped for that, but I think that there was too much water under the bridge for both of them, that it was not going to happen. Look, just glad it wasn't Little Marco. It was
never going to be Little Marco.
No, but
he
they
was
were
on the
saying,
short list.
They were talking about Nikki Haley.
No,
they said it was Marco, Doug Burgum, and JD Vance on the short list, and I'm like, I'm going Vance.
No, of course.
Going Vance.
Let me say this: under that motley crew, it's Vance.
Yeah,
100%. But when I say we can do better, I mean in our nation, there is better.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, all you got to do is look at Congress, and we can do better than all of them. We could do better in this room than what they have there. So, I mean, I think that you have ideals. Look, is it a massively inspiring choice for a lot of people? Probably not. I'm happy with it.
I like it. Yeah, I
have to say I'm happy with it. I understand.
I'll just say, step up, buddy. You got to have this guy's back.
Now, I know we got to go to break here, but I will also say we need to make sure that Senate seat is protected because he was a very reliable vote in the Senate, and we need to make sure to cover that. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the election in November, let's check in on how well it's going with Joe Biden over the weekend at a press conference, just like barely making it, shuffling his way off of the podium. Watch.
When you spoke to President Trump yesterday.
Look at his hands. Look at his hands.
Mr. President,
he's about to go and play piano. I'm just getting ready. I'm going to go and tinkle the ivories.
He's just walking through a door. It's not even down steps.
Guys, so I did see there was some speculation because you know that there's a speculation that he has Parkinson's, and that is apparently a symptom of Parkinson's is that you can't use your hands like that. And I'm just saying that is very weird. He does not look well. Does this inspire confidence? Does this look like a man that's well to you?
He's about to do the Thriller.
I did think it was funny that Trump. that Trump challenged him to a golf match. I thought that was rich. Just 2 holes.
Things are good. This is the meme of the dog with the fire behind him. Yeah. Things are going great, guys. It's fine. Just the country's on fire. And for the love of God, please vote for Donald Trump in November.
Yes, please.
Please. For the love of God. Please.
Praise God, he saved him.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. It was God and Trump, not his security. So.